Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
Dave, Corey, this is the first show that we're sitting here in our new studio. Studio's not done yet.
No.
It's not done yet, but this isn't going to probably be the first show, if you're watching on YouTube, that you see us sitting here, but this is the first time we're recording. We'll see if we can make this go smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? You excited?
Yeah, we've set up a lot of different places, so I'm pretty sure we can go smooth.
I was meeting with a group of guys this morning, and I said the same thing. I said, we could record in a parking lot. It's just a matter of how professional and permanent we want to make this.
It just feels official. Though.
Yeah.
It's our own space.
Do you feel tight? Do you feel?
I do. It doesn't feel like home yet. It's like, you move
Right.
into a new house, and it's like, I don't know where this light switch is.
We don't have anything on the walls.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
We need some cool stuff. So if you got any cool stuff to send us to put on the walls or on this awesome custom table, heck, send it to us. We'll put it
I
up.
do feel like your table design was fantastic.
This has far exceeded our expectations.
We're going to do a whole show on this table.
I think we should.
We're going to get the kid that built it in here, and it's completely custom. Went from a chalk drawing that Tanner
Sidewalk
brought
chalk.
Sidewalk chalk. It's not his kid's, his, that he plays with, and drew it up on the floor, and boom, it just, it was awesome.
Well, what a better way to kick this off than to focus on something that Dave has expertise in, as well as bring in friend of the podcast, Casey. Casey, you drove all the way from almost Wyoming to sit in the studio.
Yep, I knew you had a new studio. I needed to come check it out.
The very first guest ever.
It's an honor.
He walks in, my wife's still putting chairs together.
Yeah.
We've got no TV
I
up.
felt bad for Allie when I walked in. She's got those little, the little Allen wrenches that are just a little.
That come with it.
Yeah, just a little L.
Yeah.
You couldn't have got her one in a drill.
No, the ratchet, and my quarter-inch set
Like
is
a nice
sitting out there.
T-handle one.
I hate that. My wife orders a new dresser or something off of Wayfair, and it just literally comes in a million pieces and different Allen. There's 2 different sizes Allen wrenches in here. Come on.
Yeah.
She has access to appropriate tools.
Okay.
So that's not my fault.
Right.
I saw something on Twitter or wherever. They had the IKEA version of the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And it was in a million pieces, and you had to put all the individual needles on the tree in there. So, yeah, that made me – that's about I don't know if you ever got anything from there before.
Man, that would make me go cut my own down.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Yep.
I like that. Well, let's get into the topic. So we're going to focus on machinery and equipment, what that market has done, and we're also going to weave in the land market, kind of kick off 2024 with a little bit of a synopsis of 2023. But for the listeners that don't know who you are, Casey, let's fill them in.
I'm Casey Seymour. I have a podcast called Moving Iron Podcast. I'm on places that I don't even know that I existed. So anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find it there. But my focus primarily is what's going on in the equipment business, what's going on from the economics of where the money's coming from to buy the equipment, and then once you have the money to buy the equipment, what's your investment worth? And I think that's kind of the elevator speech of what my podcast is all about.
This isn't his first time on, right?
Nope.
Yep, you've been on before virtually.
Yep.
It's almost been 2 years.
I think that's about right. Yep.
Gosh, when you do this for 4.5 years, you make so many friends and you meet so many experts, and then you sit there and cycle through all the information.
Well, I don't think I was on that one. That was probably back when I wasn't doing
the
very
profit
many
shows.
profit shows.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you earned your stripes, so finally let you participate.
yeah, they let me in. Now it's like, where are you? Get here.
No,
I had to sort pigs.
I never send the "Where are you?" text. I know better than that. Dave, for those that don't know what you do for your day job, tell them what you do.
Sure. Ag land sales. So primarily sell farmland across the Midwest with a big emphasis on Iowa. But if you can spell it, I can normally sell it. But we specialize in farmland.
You might not have a lot to sell if you're relying on me spelling it.
There you go.
You're the second Iowalandguy, right?
Is that? Well, I was the first Iowaland guy.
Okay.
Long before somebody took that Twitter handle.
That was funny.
That joke's going to run for a little while, I think. I think we're going to not let that one die for a little bit because I think I got another surprise in one of the upcoming recordings
Oh
boy.
as well.
have old Doug on. Yeah.
All right, Casey. So let's just first start broad brush. Equipment market year over year. So we're looking at 23 compared to 22.
Yep.
What'd you notice?
I think the biggest thing that the availability of equipment now is not an issue anymore. Obviously, go buy any lot and look and see what they've got, and they're full again. So coming out of COVID and what I saw there, I really thought 23 would be a year that we kind of eased back into supply and let demand kind of slowly work its way through. But, man, the manufacturers got everything produced and put out at one time, it felt like. So going into early 23, compared to what we saw in early 22, you couldn't hardly get anything that first quarter of 22, and man, they made up for it in 23. So early 23 saw a lot of stuff hit the ground, a lot of stuff move in. I talk about I call it the scarcity premium that got put on equipment early in 21 and 22, and basically that was if no one had anything. So if you had it, here's the price, and if you don't want it, somebody else will buy it. So that's kind of how it was. You're starting to see that kind of erode away now. And not because, I think a lot of people are really freaking out a little bit about values that you see on machinery from the perspective of, oh my gosh, prices are falling, so the economy must be bad. And that's not the case. I think supply is just catching up with demand now. And like any other big bubble, when it pops, there's always a correction in there somewhere. And that's what we're seeing right now. And I think we're going to see that spill over into 24.
Scarcity premium.
I love that.
I think we should. I've never thought of it this way, but push yourself 30 years from now, and what are they going to teach about the whole COVID 2020 era and all that? Call it the TP theory or something. Toilet paper, Tractors got toilet papered.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah,
but I remember that because I remember talking with Tractor Zoom a little over a year ago, kind of doing the same episode, and they were stating that if you wanted a planter, you basically needed to have all of your stuff into the dealer because within minutes the pre-order was full from across the country. And same thing went with other pieces of equipment. And now you're thinking that that's getting a little bit more available. Yeah,
because everything was allocated. Whether you're a Deere, Case, or Echo, whoever it was, everything was allocated, and your allocation was based around some metrics that they came up with. Who knows how they did it, but those allocations were there. There's still things that are somewhat allocated. Cotton guys, for example, have been on a cotton picker allocation for I don't know, probably 5, maybe almost 10 years now.
Okay.
Which makes a lot of sense because you can't do much with a cotton picker other than pick cotton.
Right.
So you're kind of limited to what you're doing there. I really thought that the manufacturers would have seen what the allocations did for the helping kind of control supply and demand, but they didn't. They kind of went away from that, and now they're kind of back to a more normal schedule of what you would normally see as far as you're going. But kind of back to your ordering a planter thing. These last order writing periods that have come up, people weren't selling through their allocation, right? So I kind of showed you a little bit that there was some stuff out there that kind of pointed towards, you know what, man, I think we're at a point where I call them buying groups, so you've got a guy that buys a new machine, and you got a 1 to 2 year old guy, and then you got a 3 to 5 year old guy, and then a 6 to 10 year old, and so on and so forth after that. I think this was just because of where inflation's been, interest rates are at, and then just the price of equipment, that these people are kind of locked into these groups. Like you can't move one way or the other, right?
Do you have a breakdown? I was just going to actually ask you before you said that. What % of people buy new of all the farmers across the board? Any kind of analytics on that?
I would probably say it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of I don't know this for a fact, but I'm going to guess somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 10 to 15% of the farming population buys new equipment would be my guess.
Okay.
Because it's not. If you think about this and you start really running a pencil to it, the discount structures from the manufacturers are what really allow for that to happen, right? And I think that's the economies of scale that we're starting to see creep into farming more than we've ever seen before. That's just another piece of that, whether it's the discounts on seed and fertilizer and inputs and everything else. Equipment is just as much of an input, and the functionality of what it costs you to operate that is falling in there.
And quite frankly, if you got the money to get into $1 million X9, start with, and you're going to trade every so often, you probably actually know your numbers a little better.
Right.
If you're trading every year than if you do, well, I'm going to hold it for maybe 3 or 6, or it's hard to know.
We've had a couple of listeners that have wrote in about that, about what it takes to jump into this new equipment. Usually the email starts off, how do my neighbors, or something along those lines. But that's right. There's a pretty good idea of what the depreciation on a single season is going to be if you know what your hours are going to run for harvest on a combine or on a tractor that's going to be planting and running your grain cart. If you can get into that new machine and set yourself up on a roll program, whether it's formal or not, you can probably calculate the cost of use, and if it fits your operation, run with it.
Yeah.
What I've seen happen is guys will get into that thinking, yep, that's what I'm going to do, I'm going to roll, and then they end up keeping it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see a lot of that come through. I think the one thing about, if you're thinking about doing that, the roll thing, is that you've got to understand what it is you're getting into. If you are, there's two schools of thought when it comes to equipment, right? You've got the guys that want to have a large equity position in what they've got, and then there's those that it's a depreciating asset. I have other places I want to build equity, right? And I think that's the key thing. Typically, when you're rolling something, you're not, with the exceptions of what we saw happen in 21, 22, where the price of equipment jumped up, and you could stay ahead of that depreciation curve by a long ways. You built some equity, right? And just a typical scale, of what's going on out there, you're not going to build equity. And when you roll and stuff, you have to have the mindset that I'm just doing this from the sheer dollars and cents of what it costs me to operate. More than likely, when I bring that piece back, I'm at $0 or slightly under that when it comes to where my position is as far as in that machine, as far as being upside down or not.
So if you're going to be rolling that often, is it better to buy new and roll, or is it better just to do the lease program?
Yeah, I think again it goes back to what your school of thought is. If you're wanting to not worry about your depreciation scale, you're not really worried about that. Leasing's an awesome way to do it, man. You can go in there and you can lease your stuff. You can put it out there, and it's a glorified rental program. It's a good way to do that. But again, you're not building any equity in what you got.
Right. You can write off your lease payment, but you don't have any equity at the end of the year.
Right.
Yeah.
And with Section 179 kind of dwindling as to how that's going to work out and what that looks like, especially from the double depreciation perspective of that, I think leasing is going to get to be more important, or more more acceptable in a long way too. And also too, with the price of equipment, leasing is going to be something else where you're just paying for a portion of that instead of all of it. And I think there's something there to that side too.
Look at the cell phone trend. You were thinking about upgrading every year and trading stuff. Corey, you and me both get new phones every year, right? And so we trade up. We're on the trade up program every year, even if it costs us. But even cell phones, I tried to buy the whole thing, and they won't let me. Now the MO is you don't have a contract. Now you have to, you're buying this phone, but we're going to spread it out over 3 years. It costs the exact same amount. I'm like, well, don't I get a discount to buy it up front? If they did that with farm equipment, where it costs the exact same amount to buy it over the next 3 years as it did to,
just write a check.
You must be buying right from the cell phone or the carrier.
Yeah.
See, I bought right from Apple.
Oh, well,
I
guess
the
I
whole
did.
thing.
I got
buy
you.
the whole thing. And,
I do that with my phones. I update all my technology every 3 years.
Yep.
And oddly enough, that's when the warranty runs out. So that's,
there's a lot to be said about factoring warranties into this. But let's circle Dave in here. You compare land markets 2022 to 2023. What's the difference?
Good. It's plateaued. I want to go back and just make a statement. I was thinking with moving iron, every time I think of wheels, I think of depreciating asset. Every time I think of farmland, I think of appreciating asset. So where you invest your money is interesting, and where you try to build that equity stake we were just talking about. So as people have built that equity stake over the past, since 2020, since COVID, we saw prices fire up. I mean, 40% plus. Then since 2022 to 2023, from the last time we talked about it, the first half of the year, we were up 0.8%. So not even 1%, as flat as you can get. And in the second half of the year, as we look at rates, where things are going, we're down 0.2%. So we've actually gone back a little bit and declined in prices. I know I say it every year, markets are emotion. And I think the emotion has finally caught up with farmland prices. And what I say by that is, if we talk with Corey right now, he says, man, my cash rents are going up. Oh, my inputs for next year are bad. Oh, man, my fertilizer is going to cost this much. And so my emotion is not crazy positive that next year I'm going to have a bunch of bankroll. If I don't have that crazy positive attitude, then I don't have an attitude to go buy farmland. Hence, you see it backing off just a touch.
Do you have the chart, your latest chart on here?
I do, yeah.
So that's a good point to make. The emotion of the buyers, which is most of the time a farmer or a former farmer, and input prices are, Corey, what would you say? Fairly flat from this year?
No, they're down.
Okay.
Inputs are down. That is the shining
But the
star
biggest
of this.
the biggest negative is they're not down in the same proportion that grain prices are down.
No, I can tell you we paid $1,100 a ton for anhydrous, which is an easy one for everyone to kind of grasp. $1,100 a ton last year. This year we pre-booked over late summer for $500 a ton, so we were down over half. But in season, if you wanted to buy it, was $850, $880, somewhere in there. So half again as much. So
So in the farms I manage, this is an interesting fact. I've talked with other farm managers, and everybody asks, should we up cash rents? Okay, should we up cash rents? Well, what is the tenor of the crowd that's going to be paying that cash rent? Are they willing to do that? And I kind of kept mine flat. We didn't raise anything. I thought we were good because I felt the tenor was a push that we were going the other way, and I didn't want them to feel like we were on the wrong side. A lot of my comrades I talked with, Tanner, Corey, they upped. They upped 90% of their portfolio. And you were just talking about it the other day, a 520 cash rent. One group I talked with, they said that over half of their portfolio is over $500
What?
in cash rent.
Where's the no way guy?
Yeah. Right?
Future guest.
So, yeah, future guest for sure. So, when you say that, and then, Corey, you just went to an auction the other day. Granted, it had investment potential, $26,000 an acre. My average farm for Iowa is $12,000 an acre.
That was a good auction to go to because it literally, same ground right across the street. So you literally had a 40 that was budding up to, I had a chiropractor clinic. It's ready for houses, ready for development. 26-2. 40 acres. Right across the street, however wide a street and two ditches are.
Yep.
15.9.
There you go.
For farmland. But still,
So it's
development
a $10,000 bonus in that area.
Right.
If you already had it.
And probably,
Water,
even
sewer.
a little bit more of a bonus because obviously everyone just saw the 26-2 sell.
Correct.
And then that's so, I don't know what that percentage is, but it was a good, just snippet of the two different types.
But what I'm going with that is it was well attended. There was multiple bidders. So although we say, hey, is there a downturn? Are we going down? There's still a ton of people that have cash and still want to spend money. And they want to invest it somewhere. The guy that bought that ground came from Illinois. So he came from Illinois. He has farm ground over there and saw opportunity over here. So he invested his money. So there are still the tenor of the investment type that have cash. They're still way positive.
And the way 1031 works is it puts you're on a ticking clock.
Yep.
So it makes almost scarcity out of ground. It's like, well, I got to put my money somewhere. That's a good opportunity. I'm willing to spend a little bit more because otherwise I'm just going to have to pay Uncle Sam. So I'll just do it, even though I don't live there.
But it plateaued would be.
Do you have your graph though? That's what I wanted to see. The trend line.
Yes, I'll get that.
Because what I wanted to say is, even though it's flat and plateaued, he still is good at making it look like it's somewhat going up.
Oh, geez.
You do. Somehow you do.
It always goes up.
It's going up. It's going up.
Right.
Somehow.
It is. So it's still.
It's up 0.8% the first half of the year and down 0.2 or whatever.
So
It's like
now that 0.8% and the 6%. So everybody needs to understand this. When you see something in the Successful Farming magazine, you hear something on a podcast. What is it? It's an opinion, right?
Yeah.
Iowa State University's deal, Purdue University's, Illinois Universities. You know what they are? They're opinion surveys. The difference in my graph versus those is real data. So this is actually what's happening, and I'm tracking all the data points.
So you take the sales that have happened.
Yes, correct.
And
so
you collect that
the
data.
sales that are happening still say we're trending
just
upwards.
take some of the low ones out so it's still trending
We're
upwards.
you can make a graph look any way you want.
It's an Olympic average.
Hey, I know how seed companies
Take
do
out
it.
the bottom two. Take out.
But the real data shows that, yes, year over year we're going up. If you look at the past 6 months, looks like we're trending down. That graph looks like we're going down. But the
I gotta have Dave start doing our podcast graphs. We're gonna look
see,
like
right there. There's what you're looking for.
climbing the mountain.
Year over year, we're going up. 6 months, we're going down.
Okay.
So it all depends on how you represent the data that's out there.
Yeah.
The way that the Realtor Land Institute, the two figures I gave where we're down 0.6%,
Yep.
that one is a survey. So they just asked all the 185 realtors that sell farmland and bankers and attorneys that are all involved in the farmland market for Iowa, and their opinion was that we dropped this percentage.
Yeah. What I'm trying to figure out is you might have a sale 2 or 3 weeks apart, a mile apart from each other, really no difference in ground type, same amount of acres, and there can be $10,000 difference in ground. One might sell for
At least 6.
9 or 10.
Yep.
You know, there's some no sales over by Ogden at 9,200, and then a couple miles away going for 15.
So plateaued with volatility. It really depends on your neighbors.
Yeah.
If you got good neighbors that have strong equity stakes, you're going to have a strong auction. So it's really important to know your area before if you're going to sell or buy.
So Dave's kind of given us a little bit of an idea of classes. Like I said, it depends on your area, depends upon your neighbors, depends upon your soil type. What about in the equipment market? Has there been stuff in 23 that sold better than others or has become more available?
I think when you look at the auction market, what you see happening there, I think in 23, auction values started somewhat of a slide to where we're at today. In 21 and 22, I mean, it was, if you had it, there was guys buying stuff at auction for $10,000 more than I had advertised for, so it was just, if you had it, it was available.
Hashtag auctions work.
That's right. That's right.
Until they don't.
But to your point, well, to your point on the auction thing, I love going to watch auctions.
Can you
I think
lift
that
your
is
mic up a little bit, please?
there you go.
Perfect.
Like that. I love going to watch auctions, and I think auctions are a great cross section of society. Right? You have the people that are there to just, it's a social gathering, and they're there to hang out. Right? You got the guy that's there to see what stuff brings, maybe interested in a piece or two, and then you got the other guy that's there that's, no matter what happened today, I'm by God, I'm buying something, right? And you go watch this thing, and kind of to your point on the land sales you're talking about, I've watched a million auctions where 2 days before you go watch a combine sell, exact same combine sells, and it brings hardly anything. And then you go to the next auction, and two guys get in a pissing match, and they end up paying $10,000 more than this one brought. And this one over here has been kind of the norm, of what the actual auction average has been within, a tight radius or so. But you'll watch that happen, and then you throw internet bidders on top of that, and those guys are bidding on. They haven't even seen it, so they have no idea what they're doing. And these two guys are, and I always love watching the guy that's there that stops bidding. I don't think he stops bidding because that extra $100 or $1,000 is just going to bankrupt the farm. He knows something that the guy on the internet doesn't know, and he's like, okay, cool. Well, you can deal with whatever
Right.
I'm seeing,
Right.
when it gets to you.
How important is the description? Because I just did an appraisal on equipment 2 days ago. Talk about combines. I had one at $120,000, and I had one at $220,000. I had a $100,000 spread on this model of combine I was looking at, with an average at $175. But then I started looking deeper to make sure, because some just said the model. Then some said it had the premium cab. Some said it was power rear-wheel drive. Some said it had bin extension. Some said it had auger extension. Some said, and then the hours, of course, step hours and whatever, make a world of difference. Some had Goodyear, some had Michelin. I mean, super singles versus duals. All the little details really add up. You can have the same doggone combine. One has a Busch light wrap, one doesn't. I mean, and so if it does or it doesn't can really change. So it's really hard when you're appraising that value of that to look at all the different little things about it, and then condition, flat out.
And that's the other thing too. Is 100%, man. You have the descriptions that you have in there. On combines, me and Aaron Phillips on here all the time. We joke about the five P's: power rear wheel, power cast, power bin extensions. He's gonna hate me now because I just forgot what the other two were. But anyway. There's those 5 things out there that really dictate whether or not. Right. And power bin extensions. Pro drive. Yeah. You look at power bin extensions and you wouldn't think that would be that big of a deal, right? When they came out, I'm like, what do you need power bin extensions for? How often are you actually folding those down, right?
All the time.
Come to find out, it's handy. It's a handy thing to have because a lot of guys out here will see, especially where in areas like this where there's more trees than where I'm at, right? For example, bridges and those kind of things.
Power lines,
those kind of, you can fold that stuff down as you're going down the road, and then you can fold it back up when you get there. You don't have to get out.
Same reason that'll bring more money is the same reason that online bidder will give $200 more. Right. Convenience.
Oh, yeah.
We pay for convenience every day of the week, and we pay for accessories. I'm sure your truck has heated seats. Convenient. You didn't need it, but it costs more.
Yeah.
But we got it. Even at the store, we'll pay more for a water than we could just wait a second and go home and get our water. But I will stop at Casey's and get a Blue Moon water and pay $3, whatever it is. But it was convenient and it was in front of me. You wouldn't think power bin extension, convenience, flat out. The reason I'll give more online, I didn't have to travel all the way to Illinois to look at that combine. They got the pictures, they had the video. I'm confident that the auction company was good enough that they gave their description. They told me if there was any errors. In some of my auction descriptions, guys, I'll actually, if I know there's anything wrong with it, I will make sure to put that in there. I want everybody to build trust with me online. And if this guy was willing to tell me about this little scratch on this side of the fender,
then I don't have to worry about the transmission being out that he didn't tell me about.
That's correct.
How much? First, power bin extension, because our shop was built in 1993 and combines weren't that tall.
Yeah.
Then, and I had to take the dang thing down every time if I wanted to work on the combine in the shop. But how much power do I, have a purchaser on an online auction, have? I mean, there's all that fine print, so I'm sure the auction company has the power, says, nope, all sales are final. But if they blatantly misdescribe the option, and I've had it happen on auction time a bunch.
Oh, yeah.
You know what, this semi's got all aluminum wheels, and then all the inners are steel wheels. It's like, well, that's clear that it's, it's a small thing, but like I've had some other things that were like, really, that the power jacks that I bought, they didn't even give a description of whether they were 3-phase or not, and they came 3-phase. Like, oh, I guess I should have known. Right. But how much power does a purchaser have, or what can they do to go back on an auction company?
No, I don't think very much, because I've seen people try and fail.
It's that tried and true, as is, where is, buyer beware.
I was going to say, different states have different rules for it.
Our combine that we bought on auction this last summer had all this stuff listed, been through the shop, had the sheet of the shop listed. So, $14,000 worth of parts. No big deal. That's a normal combine through the shop in the, off season. And so we ordered all those parts before the combine even came to put on there. And then we started going through and going, wait, this is perfectly fine. And then started finding stuff that wasn't. It's like, what combine went through the shop? Because it wasn't this one. Ended up being $30,000.
So as an auctioneer, I try to be as transparent and find the third-party resource that can give you the information. So like even on my appraisal, I went and got build sheets from the dealer on all of that, so that I was cross-referencing the serial number to do the best job we could for the client to know. Sure. Does this have the Red Sea package or does it not? I don't know if it does, because it's hard to just see by looking at the outside. So I went and got the build sheet, and this is where dealers have the advantage, or guys with all the software do. And if you have that, then I can tell you, the would-be buyer, hey, this is what I know about it. Here's the build sheet, and they did it sound like, here is what it's been through the shop, but maybe it wasn't the right combine. I will say, recourse-wise, I try to make it right there, but I have a point of contention as an auctioneer with the seller now. I had a combine that I sold that had a globe on it. Well, sure enough, they took the globe off, transferred it to their sprayer when we go to sell it, but the picture I took had a globe on it. So the guy that bought it in South Dakota, where the hell's my globe?
Yeah.
You know who paid for that? I did.
Yeah.
So there's companies that, he made the statement. I said, sure enough, it doesn't have the globe. I go back to the seller. He's like, hell, I'm keeping that.
Yeah.
Well, you just screwed me and my company out of,
I will say that combine, we went down and looked at it
Yep.
in person because I wanted to see it, and I had pictures of it on my phone. They had pictures of it online. When the trucker went to pick it up, the windshield had this giant crack in it.
Oh, yeah.
And someone mowing the yard between the time the auction went and threw a
really?
rock up and threw it. The company selling it actually did pay for the windshield.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
because
good.
that's about, $4,500 that you don't
they're-
need to spend.
It's a piece of glass that's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
I know that when we did this show the last time, we were focusing on row crop and mid-sized tractors that it was really hard to get a hold of. Those were a tough market if you wanted to upgrade. And there was a lot of our listeners that, that's what they've been waiting for.
Right.
They were running their 20 series or their 30 series tractors when you think John Deere. They were ready to upgrade, just couldn't get a hold of it.
Yep.
Do we see that market recovering, or what do you think is going to happen with row crop tractors?
So row crop tractors, there's an adage in the equipment business that you can never have too many row crop tractors. I think we're going to test that theory in 2024. There's a ton of row crop, that 300 to 300, 400 horsepower row crop tractor. There's a ton of those out there right now, and there's you're starting to see that market start to kind of curve a little bit. The compact utility tractor market is there's still a lot of those out there. And what's kind of digging that market into a hole is all the manufacturers have 0% financing forever on the new side. And a lot of them have, 0% financing for, I think, one of them's out there to 72 months and maybe even 84 months.
Wow.
Some of that stuff.
Free money.
So, and you beat that up against the machine out there that's got, maybe $5,000 or $6,000 less for that used one, but you're paying 8.5% interest on that.
Yeah.
Do the math on that and tell me which one's cheaper or which one's a better deal. So you're seeing that market still have that's really having some bumps right now. But I do have my concerns. I don't typically have concerns about the row crop tractor market, but I think this year is going to see some big liquidations come through where there be more than just combines being dumped. It's going to be some row crop tractors.
Do you think combines are being dumped right now?
Oh yeah, combines kind of went through there. So the old adage is if you're a dealer and you have more than one combine, you got a combine problem.
Yeah.
So, but I think as you're looking at what's going on now, you saw a lot of combines get took to auction. Started early this year, like ridiculously early. Like June, you started seeing some really big liquidation sales in June, and typically you don't see those until the end of the year because guys are trying to time that tax, the tax thing with the auction deal, and there were some really big sales that really shocked me that were going to be that, because I always thought that with the more and more of these auction companies going to an online presence where they're going to have multiple auctions throughout the year where you could have like Auction Time is a good example of that, where you can have every week they have an auction.
Yep.
Right. And so I thought more and more people would be kind of trying to disguise their liquidation strategy, because I'll put a bunch over here, and then the next week I'll put some more in here, and the next week I'll put some, and that way you don't have this big 40 combine, 60 tractor type auction thing happening all at once. And I was wrong. It really didn't happen.
What
that way.
pushes that? Because I felt like the salesmen were literally telling me, we don't have anything to sell. We don't have anything to sell. And then all of a sudden it was 40 John Deere combines on an auction. I'm like, why wouldn't you give those to the salespeople to sell that?
So I think a lot of it too is, not only is it cost you guys a bunch to go out and buy equipment, and from the interest perspective, the floor plan interest these dealers are messing with now is huge. Some of these guys, we used to talk about, when I first started in the equipment business, we had $20 million worth of total used inventory. Mm-hmm. Now you got $20 million you might have $20 million of corn heads. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, or combines or whatever. Some of these guys the other day I was talking to, he had $40 million in just row crop tractors at their dealership. These big dealerships, but so you do the math on that at 8% interest, and
That's
on
true.
40 million.
So let's-
so they're burning. They're trying to liquidate the stuff as fast as they
Yeah.
can.
So let's hit the big implements that are out there. I've seen tractors stay pretty steady. They seem to always hold value. Let's talk about with combines. You think they're going down or up?
Oh, they're going down.
Okay. How about planters?
Planters, I think planters are a weird animal, man. I think, so kind of go back in time a little bit. 2012, the last big boom we had, everybody went out and bought 24-row planters, it felt like. And they, back then you could get a 24-row planter and put all the stuff on it, and it cost you about $225,000, $250, something like that. We had the collapse in the market, 13, 14, 15, 16 time frame. I don't think you could sell a planter unless you sold it at an auction, because there would be tree rows of planters and drills and those kind of things at the dealership. Well, ever since then, that market never rebounded. It was like a one-for-one deal, like a one-in, one-out. You sell a new one, you take a used one on trade, the used one to get sold, you take that trade. It was like a perfect harmonic ecosystem where everything worked like it was supposed to. Then COVID happened, and it made it even more tight than where it's at. But I think the kicker about planters right now, and this is something I've been thinking about a lot across the entire spectrum of the equipment business, is these upgrade kits that you can put on the planters now. Mm-hmm. You no longer have to have a new planter to get the newest technology, right? I could have a 10-year-old bar and put the latest and greatest technology on it, and it's a new planter, right? Mm-hmm. If you get a Deere, they give you a new serial plate. I mean, it's a whole new deal, right? The precision planting side of that, the guys that are building these planters on bars in their welding shop or whatever they're doing, you're seeing those kind of things happen. Where I think now, what makes a planter valuable is to what point can you upgrade it to, right? How far back how old does my bar be until I can upgrade it?
Never thought of it that way.
So I think that's the kind of thing. Now, on the precision side, I've seen guys take a finger pickup from the 80s and upgrade it, and they've got a brand new planter, right? I'm interested to see when manufacturers start going, all right, before you can hang any more new row units on this thing, you need to x-ray the bar to make sure it's got the strength to actually make it work, right?
Right.
Or, hey, you know what? After 10 years, we're not going to sell you an upgrade kit on a whatever bar, right? I think that also is going to start to spill over with this technology stuff. I had this conversation with the guy the other day, when the autonomous tractor comes out, right? And they have the fully autonomous deal. Deere's talking by 2030, they're going to have the fully autonomous tractor farm thing. So what's that look like? And then are you going to have an upgrade kit that goes back to that? Well, let's just say it's 2018, right? 2018 is the year that you can go back to. What's your 2017 tractor worth now?
No.
You can't upgrade it, right?
Not as much.
What's your 19 worth, right? There could be, the 2017 could just be completely worthless. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because there's going to come a point when whatever globe is on that machine is not supported anymore. It's a new ITC receiver that you can't support anymore. So now you've got a tractor that cannot drive itself in any facet. What's it worth? And that's something that I'm really been thinking about hard, is that as this new equipment comes out, because when I first started in this business in 2006, you'd get a new amazing thing every couple of years, right? You see something pop up, or there'd be some new fad. And I think tillage is a good example. There's always been, about every 5 years, there's a new tillage fad that comes around. But now you're looking at stuff where you might see the whatever software or whatever implement came out, and in 6 months they've already updated it to something even better version of what it came out with. So now you start looking at that, and you start looking at these machines. At what point is the value of the machine starting to dictate, because it's being dictated by what it can be upgraded to? And I think that's something that, as this technology comes out, if guys buying equipment, you should pay attention to that and really ask those questions.
It might be the same if we're still staying on that tune. So we talked planters, we talked combines and tractors. What about...
Stay with planters just for a sec, because I remember when you and I did our first show on this, it was the difference between a smart planter and a dumb planter. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking last year that it was the difference between a fast planter and a slow planter.
Yep.
it's interesting when you talk about tractors. It could go back to a smart
tractor
tractor or
and a
a
dumb
dumb
tractor.
Sorry, go ahead. I had to throw that in there.
What about rogators, sprayers? We've upgraded that. We went from 3 wheels to 4 wheels to do it yourself to let the co-op do it to drones.
Yep.
What are you seeing there?
The See and Spray stuff and that Deere's rolling out with the See and Spray Ultimate, what they're doing there, what you're seeing with, AGCO is going to roll out something kind of similar to it, and what that looks like. That's the first machine that I think that I can point to and say, this is the generation where technology is going to pick a winner and a loser, right? Assuming that stuff works like it's supposed to and it does, knock whatever you're spraying down by 70%.
Yeah.
That's a big savings, right? That's a huge amount of money that you're saving. Now, you're paying a huge amount of money for the machine that you're getting and the subscriptions and all that stuff.
Didn't they have a puck kit as well?
Yeah, they do have a puck kit for
They
that
have
as
a
well.
puck kit that you can performance upgrade on that.
Yes, and I don't quote me on this, but I want to say it's like 2015.
Yeah, okay.
And you have to have the machine has to have ExactApply, I believe.
I can say we got a 2011 Hagee, and it wasn't a John Deere puck, but it was another brand's puck that way they could upgrade. It was like $50,000 to do a 120-foot boom.
Yep. So now think about that. Kind of goes back to my earlier point. They just already put it out there on sprayers. What's a 14 worth?
Yeah. Same thing happens with iPhones.
Yep.
Now my 13's not worth anything.
Your iPhone sprays your yard?
Supposedly it's your Apple Watches too. I don't know if you saw that they're going to stop making certain Apple Watches because it's got a patented piece in it
Yeah.
that
The
they
heart
can't.
rate monitor thing or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Yep.
Huh.
Blood pressure deal. But I think sprayers, when I'm looking at sprayer market right now, sprayers to me is the one thing that I've always been able to point to when working with a farmer, that this is the one machine that will save you money or make you money. And I think the sprayer market right now is in a good spot where I don't think it's that completely flooded. But again, these things are wicked expensive.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So trying to find the guy that has the $400,000 or $500,000 to buy the used one, that's where that problem's starting to come into play.
So my challenge is I'm probably in that buying group that would be more 5 to 10 years old.
He didn't go far enough down. That example.
5 to 10 years old. But I like the technology. My dad's a big technology guy and all that. So, my concern with all this is, normally it should just be nozzles and pressure, right? Speed, nozzles, pressure. And now we have all these electronic wires, and I know we got AMS in the spray. We're spraying chemicals that are corrosive, and electronics, they don't mix very well. What is the life of that? And now you're trying to move me into that category that's changing every so often because I don't want that to go bad, because otherwise it's just a big paperweight that...
So it's like DEF on your semi.
Right.
I don't want it.
I don't want it. So,
You might see some dumb tractors sell for more than smart tractors.
Well, I think tractors are really becoming, they're going to be the dumbest thing out there. I think all the technology is going to be behind the tractor. I think, just think about it. When you have an autonomous tractor, what does it really need to do? Go straight and tell you where it's at. That's it.
Doesn't need heated seats. Doesn't need a massaging seat.
Doesn't need Bluetooth.
It doesn't need all that stuff. So I think all your technology, you're going to see all the growth in technology you see in farm equipment. It's going to be in the planter, in the whatever it's integrated into.
On the implement.
I actually talked to a professor from the Ohio State University.
Well, there you go.
And I hate it when they do that. But they've got a whole program that they've got a grant fund for that they're literally trying to figure out ways to make tillage tools smarter.
Yeah.
How do you apply a sensor to a field cultivator sweep and make sure that it's still there before, if you change your sweep or not? So, I mean, it's interesting to hear where the studies are being done on the collegiate side to provide the data, which is eventually going to go into the manufacturer's hands.
Sure. 100%.
Oh, man, how expensive is that tool going to be? I imagine it's like a vibration sensor, probably.
Yeah.
So I
It's the
think
same one that I'm not going to go. We'll save that joke for another time.
The toothbrush.
That's
right.
yes, the toothbrush. Same thing that's in the toothbrush.
You mentioned DEF, though. Are DEF tractors still bringing a premium? Or the non-DEF?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you still see those out there. You see, and especially something like I looked at one the other day, a guy called me about, and it was a 7820, if I remember right. And it had pretty low hour. It only had like 4,000 hours on it. But it was a pre-DEF tractor, obviously. And there were guys out there asking $100,000 for it, $120,000. I don't think it even cost that much when it was new.
Yeah.
And which, you make that joke about 4440s and stuff like that all the time when they were, $15,000 when they were brand new or whatever they were. But you start looking at something like that was probably close to $80,000 new or something like that. I have to go back and look. But you still think about a tractor with 4,000 hours on it, and it was new, $80,000 brand new, and they're asking $75,000, $80,000 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Is it going to be? I use the analogy pickup trucks. People ask me when farmland prices are going to go down. I said, well, tell me when I can buy a pickup truck for $25,000 again.
Right.
It's not going to happen. Are we ever going to see tractors go back that way?
So I think these upgrade kits are going to do one of two things. I think technology, where it's at now, if you're not Gen 1, if you're Gen 1 and your neighbors are at Gen 4, Gen 5 of that technology, they're going to have a strategic advantage over you. That being said, these putt kits and these upgrade kits and stuff that you see out there, I think you're taking the piece of the technology that everybody wants, and instead of me having to buy a $800,000 platform, I buy a $50,000 platform to make it do what I need it to do. I think that is going to open the door to more people to be in the technology game and really do that, but it's going to be, $250,000 at a time and not $1 million at a time.
It reminds me of a commercial that I heard for a razor, for shaving, and they said we're not a company that focuses on planned obsolescence. We want to focus on a quality product. We're going to sell you quality product once or twice a year rather than knowing that every 30 days.
Yeah.
Yes, you got to put that together.
Yep.
I don't want to get into a debate about planned obsolescence when it comes to equipment and machinery, but it feels like a lot of things are going that direction. Your iPhones, all of a sudden, whether they can prove it or not, it just seems like after year 3 or 2, your battery starts to go away from you. So we'll move on from that debate. I want to get from Dave the sellers of the land that we've been seeing sell this year, and we'll piggyback a little bit into Casey on what he sees for that. Who's been selling the land?
Estates.
Still estates.
Estates, trusts, receiverships, and bank trustees.
So that's a lot of the same as last year.
It is. And so that is normally our number one seller, is always somebody that inherited ground that has twice removed from farming. So second generation, their parents didn't even farm, so they live somewhere else. They inherit it. They see that there's value there, and normally one of the heirs to the throne wants to sell. And they might force the hand of the other heir that does farm and is connected, but they got half interest or they have a third interest. And in Iowa, it takes a quarter interest to be able to force the hand. You have to have at least 25%. Right. So they rewrote that rule. But those are the people, trustees. So the other one that I'm seeing more of, as our baby boomer generation kicks up and they head to a nursing home, that's expensive.
That's true.
That's way expensive. So three clients this week, and they all had the same message, is my wife needs to go to the nursing home. I need the money. So the money this week, I don't want to sell the farm. I don't want to pay capital gains, but it's very, very expensive to be adult care. Mm-hmm. And so with that being said, I think you're going to see a bigger trend in that.
So then the method of sales. Last year, it was almost exclusively auctions. There wasn't very many listings. Mm-hmm. Are we still seeing that trend, or is there more listings?
We are still seeing that trend through 2023. Into 2024, you're going to see auctions back off. And the reason this is what you'll see. Good stuff sells good. Same with equipment. Bad stuff sells bad. Mm-hmm. The good stuff still has competitive bidding. People still want it. So that will be competitive bidding. Auctions work when we have competitive bidding. If I only have one bidder out there, and that's it, and I'm the realtor and I'm making that decision, I'm thinking, man, those guys that had to borrow money, they're out because interest rates are up. Those guys that were investors, well, geez, they can get 5% on a T-bond now. I only get 2.5% in farmland. Now my investors are out. Who do I got left? The one farmer who was the neighbor that wanted it. I don't have an auction anymore. Mm-hmm. Tell you what, I'm going to list this. Here's the price.
And then they have the fear that someone else might come in, so they still pay a little bit more than they would have at auction.
So you'll see either sealed bid auctions to where you don't know who's bidding against you, and you give the price you want, highest and best, or you will see, I actually booked one yesterday. It's going to be a sealed bid auction for a different reason. That's because it's development potential.
Right.
What about the amount of acres? I know you said the price, but is it more or less over last year?
We are pretty right on. So let me look here, and I'll tell you. Yeah, we are pretty much right on for acres. Our November this year actually had more than last year. We sold about 24. So November's the biggest month. So just comparative on November, we did 24,000 acres this year in 23. Last year we did 20,000. Now, some of the middle months, the June, July, August, they're getting more and more every year, but we're pretty even on acres. We've backed off just a little.
Yeah.
That being said, this time of year, normally I have 120 auctions going into March, January to March. So we're already planning for the next 3 months. Right now I have 61. So we don't have as many sales going.
You're already half.
I'm already half of what
what
I'm seeing for next year. So I think we've burned through a lot of that. You're going to still keep seeing those people. Now, if somebody has 1031 Tanner, and they find the right farm that they want to buy, Corey might be a good example on this. He might have trading stock somewhere. Still farms it, still makes money on it, but when that farm next to him comes up, he's going to be a seller. So that the 1031 buyer is also the seller.
Right. That's kind of like your planter example that you gave, to where
the
guy that ordered it, and then at next one and next
right.
one and next one. So you might not see a lot of large auctions. You may see strategic movement.
Now back up to 2020. Biden administration came in, and when he came in, we had a big threat of losing 1031 tax deferred exchange and a threat of losing 179 deduction. We lost our 1031 on equipment. We can't do that anymore. Okay, guy sat in my office this morning, and he said, well, they're going to get rid of that 1031. And I'm like, no, they're not. And he's like, I'm telling you, they are, the administration, they want to get rid of it. So
There will literally be tractors driving to Washington.
There will be. I think it is such.
Where is that, over in France or something right now?
Whatever.
Yeah.
It is such a big tool that people use. I don't think they could ever get rid of it. But if they did, holy smokes, it would change our market in a heartbeat.
We're going to have an interesting show with a guy that actually has a pretty good case to get rid of it. It'll be interesting.
Really?
It will be an interesting conversation. That'll be 24 conversation.
All right. I'm looking forward to that.
Yep.
So when we look at the equipment market, we know who Dave's got for sellers on the land side. Are I feel like when we talked with Tractor Zoom last year, there was a lot more farmers, operators just sending it to auction, whether it was Auction Time or whoever was doing it through Whitaker, whichever it was, that they knew the market was hot, so they didn't need to rely on trading it in. I'll just sell it and I'll go get my upgrade.
Right.
Are we seeing more stuff go to inventory and just be listed with a price?
You look at equipment prices now, and even though they've slipped from what they were, they're still seeing a lot of good stuff out there.
I think one of the reasons people do that, Tanner, or they did, is Corey wants a new truck, but he needs to sell his planter. Mm-hmm. How do you trade? You can't trade in your planter for a new truck. You can't trade your sprayer for a new tractor.
I've seen a combine sitting up at the Dodge dealership.
Probably not. But so an auction.
You can really tell the price of trucks have gone up.
Yeah.
An auction brings everything back to cash, the currency that we want, then go buy whatever the heck you want. So I think that is a reason that auctions are a method versus a dealership trade-in.
Yep. And I think you're seeing the one thing I think where the equipment side of it isn't necessarily the first thought process isn't to take it there, is that you've got that you always have that looming thing behind you on a combine or whatever it is, that I might owe $225,000 on this thing, and I take the auction and I lose $100,000. I got to come with $100,000. More than likely, when you sell a piece of land, that's not in your head, right? So I think that you're seeing that there. You're seeing more stuff go into back to dealership inventory. There are a lot of people who are selling their stuff online. Twitter's full of that. I've got a whatever, and they're selling it and letting it go. You see a lot of those episodes out there where I can't remember what I was watching the other day. It was on YouTube something, but a guy was talking about how he made a bunch of money by selling his equipment himself, and of course I want to go into the comments and go, I'm gonna tell you why you made it so much money selling it yourself, because you hit the perfect wave, right?
Yep.
And
do you think I've seen a trend, but I don't watch it close enough. Guys that call me, they want to sell 1 or 2 pieces.
Yeah.
We don't see whole farm sales anymore. Now I have one in March coming up where somebody passed, let's sell everything. So we used to think of buying trends and selling trends. And so the buying trends, we used to go to an auction. We were like, hey, Johnson's are having an auction. Well, what are they selling? I don't know, but they got walking tacos. Let's go, right? It was an event.
Yeah.
We don't have time for events anymore.
Yeah.
Our attention span is much shorter. Now, if Corey wants something, he specifically looks for whatever he wants. I know I want this 7 class combine or class 7 combine.
Right.
And he specifically searches out that combine. He doesn't care what the Johnsons have for sale. I'm looking specifically for this combine with this,
Yep.
or I'm looking for this piece of tillage. And some of the guys that I have selling, the tax implications, recapture tax on any of this is, I can't sell all that this year. Tell you what, sell 1 tractor this year. We'll do another one next year. I'm like, what? Let's sell everything. Let's make an event of it. Nope. Yep. And so this is where I think the online platforms have just powered ahead. Yeah. And it wasn't COVID at all. It is, can I sell 1 piece?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's – so I thought for the longest time that what Sullivan had going – Sullivan Auctioneers had going for where they did – really hammered the internet auction side of it and did the live thing, right? So it was like the best of both worlds. You had this, like, and I love going to auctions. That's one of my favorite things to go do. But now if you find someone that's having a live auction and they're going to have proxy bid on it, it's like, oh my God, they still do that? You know, because it just doesn't happen anymore.
Yep.
And I think you look at like, you know, like what Big Iron started doing clear back in early 2000s when they were looking, and they came on and we're just internet only. And I'm like, well, that's the dumbest thing on the planet. Why? Someone has to have an internet, and they have to, like, they're going to trust these pictures that you're getting, you know. And look at them now. I mean, it's really moved.
Yeah, they bought Sullivan.
People like Corey.
yeah, exactly.
People like Corey bid and end up never going to see what it is until it pulls into his
I've gotten
driveway.
screwed so much on online auctions. Like the whole retirement auction is a value to me. I will overpay for that because I know the farmer, and I know I saw that semi-trailer going up and down the road, you know, every few, you know, just a few months a year, and it wasn't on the road every day in the salt.
I told
15% is what if I put retirement on it versus consignment, it's at least a 15% increase.
I've told my in-laws they need to retire about every 6 years.
Your in-laws would definitely need a retirement sale to get some more out of their equipment.
That's the thing about those too. I mean, those retirement sales, I don't even use those as a comp when I'm looking up a value of a piece of equipment because that's a unit. That's often some tropical island someplace where everybody's, you know.
See, now as an auctioneer on my side, I still like to have the live auction with the internet bidding. Every auction I have from this point forward forever will have internet bidding. However, I get my next job from that. It's a people business. I like shaking hands. I like meeting people, and they're like, "Oh, well, hey, you did a good job here. I want you to come work our sale."
Yeah.
And so I've hesitated to going only online.
Yeah.
Now, personal property, grandma's doilies, that kind of stuff. Put it online.
Why have they gone to? Because there's several companies that have gone to just online, and I've only seen it mainly in land. I guess you could say, you know, the Big Iron auctions are only online because they're spread out. But like for a chunk of land,
there are land companies that do it. So you don't have to go there that day. We guarantee what our internet connection is for all the people abroad. Another auctioneer told me once, he said, however you sell it, Dave, they will come. However you offer it, if they want to buy the asset you have, they'll buy it. Tell them jump on one leg. Look at buyer's premiums. I have a 5% buyer's premium on this farmland. If you want it, crap or get off the pot. 5% more.
I want you to do that. The next auction that you start off, I want you to tell people that you will only take a bid if they are hopping on one leg.
Yeah.
Like you can't. There's no sitting down, tapping
I don't
your
like
nose.
it though. You take the personal aspect out of it. I don't mind. I mean, obviously you're busy. You can't be there that day, or you're out of the state online. But when I bid on one of your farms because you couldn't get a bid, and you threw out a $10,000 or $9,000 bid, and I bid, and then Dennis Allboss leans back in his chair and, you know, makes eye contact with me, sent a message. I'm like, okay, fine, yep, all right. You're worth $4 billion. Like you can.
And you'll even see that where some of the big operators want the anonymity of online. They don't. They want to come to the live auction, but they don't want all the neighbors knowing that they're bidding against them.
We've got a lot of ag corporations in this state, a lot of individuals that grew into large farm businesses, and they don't want to be seen bidding against their customers. Yeah. Well, I want to answer it in 2 facts, and then I want to get kind of a wrap-up question on today's episode. So while you guys were talking about what it's like for turning an asset into cash, and you might end up being upside down. So I knew that the statistic for the amount of land that's owned debt-free, it's 84%. 84% of Iowa farmland has no debt on it at all. The amount of equipment, it's almost a flip, 180.
Yeah.
72% has debt on the equipment, which is interesting because equipment depreciates, land appreciates. Wouldn't you want to carry debt on your land? But it's so much easier to get that note, put it into your equipment portfolio,
It's skewed.
and move it forward.
It's skewed because the landowners aren't necessarily the ones farming.
Well, and
So there's potentially more farmers in this machinery
And the landowners
category.
are old.
the average farm only trades hands every 60 plus years. How often do you trade equipment? There's a reason we don't have a loan on farmland. We haven't sold or bought new for 60 years.
Right.
We buy equipment a whole lot more often than that.
Maybe those little old ladies that own the land should buy our equipment too, and then we'll just pay the $520 cash rent and we get the equipment
Not a
as
bad
well.
idea.
That I don't have to carry any of the debt.
That's about it. There you go.
Yeah, it says here that the overall on average, according to Google, is 15 to 20 years for a tractor,
Yep.
which is longer than I expected.
How an average male-maintained tractor can, how long can it last? Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, now I want to get a 2024 prediction to kind of wrap this up. We'll make our guest go first. So what do you think we're going to see in the equipment market for 2024? You've kind of already hinted at a couple of things, so maybe summarize that and lay that out for us.
Yeah, so I think 24 is going to be, I'm looking at the marketplace now, and I think we're going to continue to see prices of equipment come down. I think we're going to continue that. I could see a 20 to 25% reduction in value between the beginning of 24 and 20 and into 24. Primarily because there's so much money still out there in 23. A lot of COVID money still laying around. A lot of those kind of things they got to get kind of put back in place. I don't think the capital is going to be there that we've seen the last 3 years into 24. When you're looking at how all of that kind of plays out, I don't think the economy is going to be bad. I don't think we're going to have a bad farm economy. I don't think that's what's going to drive that. The stuff that's happening in Brazil with the drought and floods and everything else, and then what we see with China coming back in and buying a bunch of stuff again, I think it's going to boost some stuff, and it's going to put us in a better spot. Obviously, interest rates are coming down. So we're going to see some stuff there. So I'm pretty positive about 24. I don't think it's going to be a runaway home run by any stretch, but I think 24 is going to have a lot of correction built into it in a lot of places, equipment being one of them. And you're going to have, if you're looking to buy a piece of equipment at 24, I think you're going to have a pretty good opportunity to buy something that'll get a good value.
What do you think about in the land market?
So I've heard economists say that we're going to crash and burn like the 80s. I've heard other economists say we could be at $7 corn in 2 weeks. So here's the Iowalandguy's prediction.
What economists saying that?
Daryl's? Dave's?
Yes.
Doug?
Yeah, Doug's. Yeah.
Doug's prediction?
Now, here's my prediction. I think the market is going to stay very strong. Last year, everybody said the same thing, that we were going to go down, we were going to see correction. I think we're going to stay very strong, and here's some reasons for positive there. Is unlike a tractor, they make more of them. Farm ground, they do not. So if I don't win the tractor on Sullivan's auction, guess what? Next week I can buy one on Steffes. Guess what? If I miss that one, I can buy it on Big Iron. Guess what? If I miss that one, I can buy it somewhere else. I only have one opportunity in the next 60 years, so my entire lifetime, to buy that farm. For that one reason, prices will stay strong. It's more of a competitive market than it is for farm machinery. The other thing is, you just nailed it. 84% of farms are paid for free and clear in my neck of the woods anyway. For those of you who listen outside of there, might be different in your state. I think the average is about 60 across the country. But even that, we're equity heavy. There is cash in the outliers everywhere. It's just got to be the right piece. So my prediction is good stuff's going to sell good. If it's good farm ground, it's square, flat, and black and beautiful, it will sell very well. Where you're going to see regression is in some of the hunting ground. Some of the hunting grounds, some of the recreational stuff where it's not production agriculture. Those are the guys that really rely on interest rates. I just want to borrow this so me and my wife can go out there and do whatever. Well, now it costs me more money. They're going to back off. So I'm still very bullish.
Yeah, good. I like that. Well, I'm going to try and summarize this up, but I want you to be thinking, Casey, we're going to test out a new question. I don't know if I love this question yet, so you guys will have to see how this flies out. But I want to know what you enjoy the most about what you do. So when you think about that, I will summarize here while you put some thought into that.
Okay.
We were here. One of the first things we talked about today was we're probably out of that scarcity premium mindset. Corey's going to start his textbook writing for his kids when they get to high school and now read about the scarcity premium.
The toilet paper law.
The toilet paper law. Supply is starting to catch up. We learned that there's probably in that 10, 15, 20% of the population in agriculture buy brand new equipment, and then it makes its way down the pipeline. It's just a matter of where do you fall if you're Corey and you're at the end of that road and you only buy worn out equipment. Oh, not quite. You can see where you fit, but we might have more opportunities this year in 300 to 400 horsepower or at least row crop tractors. That seems to be a market that could be potentially oversaturated. I already saw a little bit of a correction in the combine market. Those values are starting to come down. Paying attention to the PUKs to see where that's going to fit. I did have a comment I wrote down and didn't get to say. Bower bars for planters. Didn't that guy sell out at the right time?
Oh, man.
You're not making any new bars. He built the bar too good. Now everybody wants to hang new row units off of an old Bower bar. So that, an interesting side there. Looking at how smart our sprayers are going to get, what the future does when these dealers announce that you can't put a PUK on a 2015 sprayer or you can't make a driverless tractor on something. What's that's going to do with the equipment that's older than those thresholds? We then talked with Dave at the same time about land. Got to see how all graphs can be manipulated to say whatever you want them to say. That the market's steady.
Yes.
We're not regressing a ton. We're certainly not seeing leaps and bounds ahead. We feel pretty good about where land is going to stay as far as a firm foundation going into the next year. Cash rent, a large majority of those figures have increased this year. Unless Dave's your farm manager, he's the only one that will treat you fairly.
That's right.
Keeping cash rent in that spot. But ultimately, on both sides of things, we're seeing retirement sales, estate sales. Those are the majority of the liquidations. Might see a little bit more inventory, both on the real estate through listings as well as sitting on dealer lots for equipment. So try to wrap a lot of that all up. And ultimately, what are interest rates going to do? Because that'll probably drive most of the market.
3 lowerings next year, right?
That's the projection.
And I got an
Projection.
There you go.
I got an after question after you answer.
Oh, you're doing my stuff.
So what's the favorite part about what you do, Casey?
I love following trend lines. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I like just seeing where things are going to go. It gives me a chance to talk to guys like you that give me doing that podcast and stuff that I do, Moving Iron Podcast, the way I do it, keeps me in the loop of what's going on. So I think it's just that, I'm not a farm kid. I didn't grow up on a farm. I hauled hay one summer. So that was, so the fact that I'm this much of a nerd about farm equipment always kind of strikes me funny. But it's one of those deals where I enjoy tracking and see where things are going and trying to guess what the future is going to hold. So that's probably one of my favorite things to do with this thing that I'm doing now.
I love it.
Do you think that we always need to spend money? We're always going to buy something new, and a lot of farmers have tax problems if they had good prices. I wondered if we're not going to see an increase in equipment prices, and the reason that I think that is I can't now afford $1.8 million for the new farm, but by golly, I could buy a new $400,000 something or other. So I still need to spend some money so I don't have to pay Uncle Sam. But now we might see other things like tile, or we might see nutrient management going in, or something of that nature. But equipment is a necessary evil for farming. Sure. So if we're going to have to spend money, will we upgrade? So will we see prices? Will we see more people transition from, well, I guess I can't buy that farm this year. Let's go buy the new sprayer.
Yeah. I think the funny thing about the equipment business, a trend that I've seen kind of happen more and more is that, especially with the way input costs have gotten, that there are a lot more people concerned about locking in what their input costs are going to be for the upcoming year, and then if they still have money left over, they'll come look at that piece of equipment.
Take out the variability. Okay.
Yeah, so
you
they
buy
can
the inputs.
Yeah, so I see a lot more people locking inputs in and then coming in and buying the piece of equipment that they're looking for. the amount of equipment that's out there, there's a supply is outpacing demand right now.
Okay.
And I think you're gonna drive some of that down.
Very good.
I like that. Well, good. It was our pleasure having you sit in the studio for the first time.
I love this, man. Yep.
You want to issue one of the first challenges of 2024?
Yeah, it was just go check out the Moving Iron podcast. We're a fan of podcasts, whether they're ours or other people in ags or not ags. So go check it out. They do good work, and they will dive into all these subjects in a much, much deeper fashion than we did.
I like it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, listeners. Welcome to the new studio. Watch on YouTube because you're going to see the transformation unfold behind us as we get more done. But until next time, have a good one.